What's going on, everybody? All right, so it finally came in. Got it sent over to myself. The new contract. I should have it up probably the second week of May in my Patreon account. So if you guys want it, it'll be up there. We'll revise it. I got some things to add. They did some other work to it. So let's go over a couple. I'm going to add some stuff from this coming week too, because man, let's go over some things I did wrong, some things you need to do. Don't make my mistakes. And let's go why you need a contract and a couple horror stories for customers. Let's do it. All right, so I got it here in my hand. The contract I'm going through it, adding a little more to it as well. They took out some stuff and added their some legal, jargon, kind of, what I paid them to do basically. So I was kind of hoping for that for sure. But contracts, you've got to have them in the state that I'm in. It's over $1,000, and honestly, I mean, you just got to use them. A couple things, you can go online, and they got basic contracts that may not even be legal in your state, just depending on you. Consult an attorney. This is not legal advice by any means, but at the same time, I will have this as a copy, as a downloadable. I should have it as a downloadable, modification. You can modify it to your liking, kind of thing. As far as contracts are concerned, I've had to reference my contract probably at least 50 times or so. Now, most likely, clear communication is the easiest way to get through customers. Hey, this is this, and I've had absolutely no problems. But like this last week, I have to, reference, customers asking for things. That's not included. That's not part of the contract. We can, as soon as they want to add everything until you bring up change order or tell, hey, no problem, I can write that up for you. I'll let you know a price. Hey, all of a sudden it's not that big of a deal for them because they, if it's on your dime, they want everything. But if it's on their dime, it's not that important. So, and I got a couple stories for that as well. But that's the main one. Had one customer. We worked on Friday. On a Friday, we worked, I think, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. getting done a list I had my own list to get things done, but they had a list they wanted taken care of because their decorator was coming in or whatever. So we got that list pretty much done except for upstairs, which was not a big deal. It was like a small sanding spot and painting a, 64 square foot area. And apparently the customer they went to dinner, and I texted her and let her know exactly what we got done and what we didn't get done, and we'll be back the next, next working day. She's texted back saying that was unacceptable. Nothing is done, like some other things. And then I just, which is not true. How everyone wants to use fake news. I just responded like, got everything done on your list, plus one thing. That takes up time. We were there for 12 hours. If that's unacceptable, I don't know what is acceptable. And then all I got back was, like, the job is stressing her out. Please get it done. So, yeah, it's all jobs are stressful, and we're getting it done as soon as we can. Kind of like no BS, right? So that's where just you have to. Communication is the best thing. I don't know who had what's the word I want to use here? Who set the standard for what should be done? It wasn't me, because I didn't say we're getting a certain amount of things done. We will be done at this day. I don't have an end date for my contracts, and I don't have a start date for my contracts. I have a start month. But that's about it, because things change. We need to move stuff back and pull stuff forward. It is what it is. And I'll say a couple things that I did get wrong with this job that we're finished. We only got like a day left of work. I mean, we're pretty much done. Like we're on the home stretch. It's no big deal. We'll have a signed completion of work form, collect our last payment, and we're done basically. Pay my subs and we're out of here. So. It's not that big a deal. I still have a couple permits, final inspection, obviously. So a day's work and then final inspection. But anyway, yeah, like it's not a big deal. But it's been going on a long time. It took 7 weeks to get the permit approved. So my mistake for this job, which I won't do anymore ever, I will not start work on a job site while waiting for a permit to be approved by a township, because that, I think, like the customer is saying, okay, we're on the job. We're working. That's the start of, the time frame that I gave them, kind of a rough time frame. which it wasn't, because we're basically using it as filler work, because the township could easily come back and say, hey, we need this, this, and this, and then that might blow the customer's budget out completely. So it's not a done deal. So I didn't want to get too far ahead. So we framed in a couple couple walls here and there, and just did some small things because I didn't want to invest too much into it, just in case. So that was my fault. It is what it is. I won't do that ever again, but just learn from my mistake. I wouldn't, we're not going to be starting any work on any job that a permit's required until the permit's approved, posted, ready to go. So in my contracts, I add, a lot of the stuff was based off experience. I add clauses based off my experience. If there's something that, just completely, I miss or something like that, it gets, I'll do what I need to make the customer happy, but then it goes into the contract. Hey, that's not my responsibility anymore. A thing like, in my contract, I'm not responsible for any pets at any time, at any moment, on anything. We're not responsible, period. Like, we could open the door on the house, leave it wide open for all day, and a cat disappears, so be it. Like, that's not our problem. But at the point, like, I had a customer who requested, hey, can you put in the contract you guys need to keep the doors closed and are responsible for the pets, blah, blah, blah. And I looked, I was like, absolutely not. Like, matter of fact, we're going to do the opposite in my contract. So just keep that in mind. Some unrealistic customers have sometimes unrealistic expectations. And if they get them from you, make sure you nip that in the butt and you clear the air, go right up. Don't avoid confrontation. Don't avoid like the, elephant in the room kind of thing. Just go right up to them and be like, hey, this is what we need to do. Do you have any problems with this? And usually customers are tough, or when you say confrontational via text or phone. But as soon as you go into a face-to-face, in my personal experience, in my limited experience with bad customers, because I don't have very many of them, like, they smooth out real quick. Like, once they see you're on site and you didn't disappear, or you're not trying to avoid them kind of thing, which they probably expect, because they hear about on, good contractors don't make the news. It's only the bad contractors, right? So, or handymen, So make sure you have clear expectations, which sometimes I fail at that too. So I work completely now. From now on, it's, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to need to be done. And we try to eliminate delays as much as possible, but they happen. So scope of work is super important as well. Like most everything on a contract is going to be super important, guys. Just know what you're going to do, and it's also not included in the contract, but there's pages depending on how big the job is, of scope of work, what you're responsible for, what you're not. And it's going to be dictated obviously by the approved bid or estimate you have, and also by the actual line item listed scope of work. And that's where it takes the most time in these contracts. It's not the actual contract, because it's plug and play, name, address, phone number, start and end dates. Money wise, we'll get that to it in a second. As far as payment schedule, that's all. But scope of work is like, all right, dig post below frost line per township, or whatever. You got to just label everything out, kind of go through the job in your head and write it out to what you need to do. List your, if you over 50 feet, if you're off a 1/4 inch, that's acceptable, but if you're off an inch, that's not acceptable. Stuff like that. So if you're building a deck, something like that. So if a certain amount of within spec, if you want like a job that's perfection, it would be like 90% or 95% to somebody's liking. But I don't think that's not an actual measurable mark. But anyway, something like that where, hey, we're building this huge deck, and if we're off a 1/16 of an inch, I'm not rebuilding the deck to get to a 32nd. That is what it is, kind of thing. So you got to cover your bases on that. Payment schedule, I already said that. Clear payment schedule, and also it's on my contract. A payment is not made when it's dictated in the contract. Work stops. Don't abandon the job site. Again, this is not legal advice, because in Michigan, don't abandon the job site. So leave some stuff, some of your tools there, no problem. But your work stop. It's basically it. No money, no work, kind of thing. So, but at the same time, you work up until your contract. You fulfill your contract, because the contracts go both ways. They can hold you to it. You can hold to them to it. So, change orders are your friend. I've said this many times in past videos. I might link a couple videos in the description, and my Patreon page as well if you want this. Again, it's probably going to be it's not going to be now, but it'll be the second week or so in May. It'll be listed. So, change orders are your friend. If there's something happens, it's in my contract. Contractor's not responsible for any unforeseen circumstances or issues or anything. It's customer's house. If something, we tear into a wall and there's a bad, beam, or, something's built incorrectly, work stops, they can hire somebody else out, or I can give them an estimate, or I can decline, because if a work order or a change order puts me out too far and I don't have time, it is what it is. I don't have time to do this. And I told customers, hey, if we tear this into it, I don't have time to rebuild your second story if something's happened. So either we can stop work and you can get somebody else to do it, or you can wait until I have time to do it, kind of thing. So change orders are your friend, and change orders also, which I've failed sometimes in this as well. You gotta let customers know that if you're adding money to a job, it pushes the timetable out. So if a job is supposed to take 6 weeks and you're adding another $7,000 to $8,000 worth of labor, it's going to be an extra week or two, right? So depending on your size of your crew or so. So, I mean, that's, now your 6 to 8 week job just turned into 8 to 10 weeks, and so on and so on. So just keep that in mind, plus delays for permits and inspections and all that kind of stuff. So, you depend. An inspector, like one of the jobs I had, an electrical inspector failed my electrician for some nitpicky stuff. Like, it's technically, you could fight it. You can, go above his head and fight it, because it's not, but you might as well just fix it and have him come back out, kind of thing. So it's not worth it. So it's just those kind of delays happen, and it is what it is. And most customers see that, and they're like, I had customers come like, hey man, that guy was just a complete dick, or, like he was just talking about, it is what it is. But you've got to play those games. I mean, really, I don't know. I don't see a way around it, especially when it's not my trade. You're hiring an electrician. They have to be there, kind of thing. I will say having your trades on site for the inspection will help them pass the inspection, because they're on site. So that's also something you probably would want in your subcontractor agreement, stuff like that. So let's see. What do I have? My last part of this is, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So I have a clause in my contract saying if it's not listed in this contract, in the scope of work, or in the estimate, it doesn't exist. The contractor is not responsible. And also I'll say, one thing I also learned, I'm going to add this. It's in a couple of spots, but it's kind of, and especially in my new contract, the wording is a little off because it's lawyer speak. But as a contractor, if a customer is supplying materials or anything, I'm, as the contractor, even though I'm like a GC, I am not responsible for quality checking and making sure that that equipment or that product fits. Prior to us even having the the flange for the toilet, or what all the plumbing and stuff. It's not my, if I tell you we're going to be 18 inches off the wall and you want some sort of custom toilet, and that toilet itself is not right because either you ordered it incorrect, the customer ordered it incorrectly, or they shipped you the wrong one, it is what it is. That delay is on you. Plus we also have delay fees. So if a customer wants to supply all their own materials and everything, in my contracts there's going to be a not my responsibility delay fee. So if I'm waiting, if I have to leave a job site for days or a week or so because the customer ordered the wrong parts or materials or something happened on their end, then I haven't yet, but I can charge them, like, say $100 a day or $75 a day, or you can go even higher than that if you have to reschedule your overhead. So my overhead's around $330 a day or so. So you can charge them that just to cover your overhead. You might make them mad, but that's their problem, right? So keep that in mind. A couple examples is I had a customer. We're building actually right now a sauna. One of the delays for this job. Building a sauna. She showed me the sauna. All right, no problem. Your electrician, my electrician, I was like, needs to know if it's 110 or 240. What amperage we need. So it was 110 20 amp service listed on the sauna. I was like, all right, no problem. So what happens? Obviously they sent the sauna and the heating element to 240 33 amp service, so they need 40 amp. So 8 gauge, but I personally did not, that heating element's been at the house for months when we're waiting for delays and stuff, and she's adding all that kind of stuff. So I get to it and, hey, guess what, it's wrong. Should I have checked it? Probably, yeah. I probably should have checked it. I shouldn't. I don't need to assume anything. But at the same time, it's in my contract. she's paying for the change order to rerun 220 or 240, whatever you guys want to call it. And that's basically it. And I can't build the sauna completely until that's done, obviously, because the inspector needs to inspect behind it, all that kind of stuff, because it's going against a wall. So that's a delay. I'd say probably half my fault, half their fault. And it is what it is. They're paying for the change order for the electrician, and I get to take apart part of a sauna for free. So, which is fine, and I get to replace it. So, but it's going in the contract again. So, and I probably won't do that again as far as, you know, giving away free labor, all that kind of stuff. It's gonna be a change, you know, sliding a change order over. Hey, here's my change order to redo all the work that we had to do, and take care of it. I think that's about. Oh, also prior, I think this was like a couple of years ago. I'm still not the best at drywall, but I like doing it. I want to get better at it. And there was a small drywall job in a small galley's kitchen, and a customer wasn't happy with my drywall on a couple of spots where it looked like the patch either didn't seat correctly or the glue didn't, you know, it didn't, so it popped a little bit. And then there was like some air bubbles in areas, and I was like, hey, no problem. I can come back, you know, repair it, skim it, you know, no problem. They were not happy with my drywall work at all. So they basically sent me, or they told me, we don't want to pay for this drywall job again. And it's, you know, part of the, you know, they don't want to pay for the drywall part again. And I was like, okay, and they're like, they had another estimate. Somebody else came over and gave them a $1,700 estimate, which, granted, I think mine was like $390 or $430 or something. Like that's how much money I charged them for it, and it was, you know, basically a half day's labor kind of thing, because I was already there, and it's not that much. I mean, we're talking less than a sheet of drywall, like probably like 30, maybe 35 square feet of actual drywall. So it wasn't that much, but at the same time, they want me to pay, you know, for the $400 that they gave me, they want me to pay $1,700 or whatever it was to have it fixed. So I told them, I was like, because they said they want to pay for it twice. So I was like, no problem. What I can do, if you don't want me to redo the work, I'll refund you your, like, we'll call it $400, whatever it was. And you can pay them $1,700 to come redo the work. No problem. That's above market value in my expertise, but it is what it is. Everybody's got different overhead. So they agreed. They're like, hey, no problem. Yeah, that's great. I'm like, okay, no problem. You know, it wasn't like confrontational. It was just like, hey, this is what we don't like, kind of thing, which is fine. It's basically a punch list, kind of an item. So I was like, all right, no problem. But in my contract, technically I could have been like, no, per our contract, I can. You know, you have to give me the opportunity to fix my work first, et cetera, before we go to arbitration, all that kind of stuff. So, but I was like, no problem, here you go. And that was it. You know, we signed over. The rest of it was fine. Everything was good. And then he called me back out, I think, like 4 months later, 5 months later, said that I set a sink. It's a small galley style kitchen. I set a drop-in sink for him, and he said he saw some drops of water inside the cabinet, so he thought maybe the silicone didn't seat. So I was like, hey, under my warranty, I'll come back. We'll re-silicone, take the sink out, re-silicone it, set it back down, no big deal. That's absolutely. So I went there and to do it, and he's like, hey, just want to let you know, yeah, that estimate was way out of line. We got somebody else to come do it for like $800 or $700, whatever it was. And then, like, honestly, and he was pointing out, he's like, yeah, we're still not that happy with it, because it was actually worse than my job. Like, you could see like little lines, but they almost missed sanding, and there's some spots around wall plates and stuff like that. And the paint job was not very good as well. Their cut lines were not great. But I mean, that's not my responsibility. Hey, it is what it is. That was a learning experience for sure. I'm better at drywall, 100% better at drywall now, but at the same time, I don't know everything about it. So, all right, story time over. I guess rant over.